Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where it is you're joining us from today. On behalf of Stores Knowledge Series and Empathica, I'd like to welcome you to today's web seminar. I'm Harry Lister, Vice President of Stores Media, and I'll be your host for this event. We're excited to present today's topic, Back to the Future, Doing More with Less in Challenging Economic Times. In today's session, we'll look at how the economic challenges we're all facing today might present an opportunity to take a new look at the customer experience your brands create. We'll also look at how several retailers have successfully done this to stand out in these challenging times. Let me take a minute to introduce our speaker. Dr. Gary Edwards is the Chief Customer Officer at Empathica and is responsible for oversight of sales, marketing, client strategy, marketing science, and retail insights. He's involved in solving business challenges with research and technology solutions and has served a key leadership role during program development, implementation, and follow-up with clients for the past 8 years at Empathica. For 15 years before that, Gary led worldwide and domestic research projects in customer and employee research. Gary's prior experience includes serving as a Senior Vice President at Merritt's, Thomson Lightstone, and as an account executive in the newly formed Financial Services Research Group. Prior to Merritt's, Gary served as the General Manager of Gallup Canada. Gary's research career began as an epidemiologist for the Culture, Community, and Health Studies Division of the Clark Institute in Toronto, and he holds a Ph.D. specializing in social research methods from Ontario's Wilfrid Laurier University. Before I hand the reins over to today's speaker, I need to go through a few housekeeping items. First, let me remind attendees that the audio portion of the webinar will stream right through your computer, so there's no need to dial into a phone line. Throughout the presentation, you'll be able to interact with Gary through our question and answer capability. Please feel free to ask a question at any time during the presentation. Simply click on the question button on the left side of your webcast console and key in your query. We'll respond to as many questions as possible during the Q&A session, and we promise to have you back to work in no more than an hour. Also, you can enlarge the slides at any time by clicking on the button located just beneath the slide window. The slides will advance automatically, so you don't need to click anything to follow along with the presenters. At this time, we also suggest that you turn off your pop-up blocker if you've not already done so. And finally, the archives of this presentation will be available for viewing for the next 12 months, so feel free to watch it again or to refer it to a colleague. We're excited you joined us today for what we hope will be a very informative webcast. So let's get started with the presentation. Gary?
Thank you very much, Harry, and thank you to all the participants who are joining us today. Here at Empathica, we are on a very special and very important mission, we believe. We have now 10 years of experience helping leading multi-unit brands build what we believe needs to be a very much improved and better world where everyone can truly love where they work, shop, and dine. It's a special mission. It's a special mission we bring to you today, and hopefully can enlighten you with some of the work that we've been doing with large, very successful multi-unit brands over this last decade. So in terms of our agenda, first, we'll touch briefly on why customer experience matters. And I know you probably wouldn't be here if you didn't believe that already, but I do want to briefly, if you will, sing to this choir to remind you all of not only what you believe, but also what the expectations are for many of our clients and the executives. In a sense, what we're doing today is sharing how great marketing science and technology can return us to some good old-fashioned retail, to where that point in time where every merchant knew his or her customer and knew how to better serve their needs. We'll touch on how we believe that customer experience is a particularly important topic given the economic climate we have all been experiencing, for many of us enduring during this past few years. And then we'll get into what we found are the 3 keys to using experience to stand out in this obviously tough economy. First, there is quite an impact that an engaged workforce can have on your business. We want to focus on that particular element of the experience. Then we're going to talk about how some of our clients are able to stand out with something as simple as the experience they've created through their product selection. And finally, we're going to show how you can take happy employees, highly engaged associates, customers who love your brand, and leverage that to turn it into viral advocacy for your retail brand today. Now, if you don't believe me or if you have questions or comments on one of the points I've made, truly I would love to hear your feedback. So please feel free to note, as Harry suggested, any questions or comments you might have throughout the session in the chat window. I'll be sure to leave some time at the end to address as many issues as I can, and where possible, I will be addressing some of your questions, doing some quick polls throughout this webinar as well.
Yeah, that's interesting, Gary, because as we write often around here, even with some of the retailers who have the reputations for having the best customer service and customer interaction, even they're not quite always up to date with what their customers are thinking. And I believe you've got a poll you want to go ahead and push out now. Is that correct?
Sure. So thanks, Harry. So on a scale of 1 to 5, here's what we're only going to do a few of these, but I'd love to hear from all of you. Your results will be anonymous. We're going to show just some bar charts or some charts that show the overall audience views on this particular topic. So on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is the best, how do you think your customers rate the experience your brand provides today? We'll give the audience just about 20 seconds here to input some of their results. And then showing the wonders of deep marketing science, we can reveal that in both a pie and a bar graph. Had a few respond. If others would like to, just take a quick moment. We'd surely enjoy getting your feedback. It's funny, Harry, you mentioned, is there a disconnection between how retailers view themselves and what customers actually think? The fascinating part, one of the many fascinating parts of the business we're in here is that success breeds its own challenges. And one of the challenges that many of our retailers face that we work closely with is that as they go from tens to hundreds and in many cases thousands of units, it's being able to recapture that original moment, that magic that started that enterprise, and making sure that it's owned, if you will, by the associates who work the floor in these very large multi-unit enterprises. It's remembering and reinvigorating teams to each and every day live that original mission. That's the core challenge that success offers, and something that we're helping with. And it's not an easy mission to be on. Let's take a look at our results. Question again: how do you think your customers rate the experience your brand provides? We've got a nice distribution here. Just 15% of you giving kind of top box scores, followed by 45%, as you can see here, or in a pie chart, giving 4s. And nobody believes that they're doing a dismal job, which is great. But we've got a 35% sitting in that middle category, which shows us that even from the view of associates, people charged with winning in these difficult economic times, it continues to be a challenged environment in order to provide that great customer experiences at the same time as face the difficult financial situation brands find themselves in, having to make cuts, having to make some very difficult choices. Well, some helpful insights to get us going. What we really want to focus on just briefly is, does customer experience matter? And again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, and everybody intuitively knows that customers matter, and the experience they have with your brand or your retail locations should be a positive one. But what shouldn't be a surprise, it might be for some, is that independent research has shown that an overwhelming majority of retail brands view the customer experience as a critical leverage point, as a way at this time, 2010, going into 2011, and now 2012, on the near horizon, this is the way that brands are able to stand out amongst their peers. Quite simply, it's growing in importance, and we're definitely seeing a renaissance, if you will, of the experience. Again, this makes sense, as our own research continues to validate that the happiest customers, the ones who are strongest advocates for your brand, tend to be not only the ones that spend the most, but also the ones who are most likely to return, and as part of their advocacy, tell their friends. So just for the audience to know, several times a year here at Empathica, we poll over 10,000 Americans and 5,000 Canadians on what matters most to them, each poll going out to some 15,000 consumers. And what our Consumer Insights panel has shown as sort of an authoritative voice on economic indicators in the retail, financial services, and restaurant industries is that strong advocates, as you expect, spend about 65% more. And good experience also influences a customer's basket size. Close to 60% of customers will, in fact, purchase a product recommended by an employee. And we're going to share with you in a little bit just how those recommendations occur, how to create an authentic moment so those recommendations occur. And most importantly, we confirm time and again with our clients that with that intelligent recommendation, one that's perceived to be in the customer's interest, that the experience they report is improved regardless of whether or not they make the purchase or not. So I just want to be clear with the audience. We love our friends at McDonald's, but this is not a do you want fries with that moment. This is a moment where the customer has to believe that the suggestion that you're making as an associate, that potential upsell, is very much in their interest and is an authentic outreach to help that customer have an enjoyable experience and get exactly what they need. That's what leads to increased recommendations, but just as, or more importantly, increased basket size. Now, despite this sort of business 101 common sense, the reality is also, unfortunately, our research has shown that very few brands are successful in delivering these standout customer experiences. We saw that in the poll, some 40% of you believing that your retail brand is not able to do that. In fact, we found in our latest consumer insights poll that many customers are not only unhappy with the customer service they are receiving, but they also feel that over time, customer service is unfortunately getting worse. So, everyone is well aware of the economic doom and gloom that we've heard. We all read newspapers. But, under this, there is some good news for retailers. And I would offer this. The bar has been set so incredibly low that the difference, any improvements you make, your ability to identify a particular moment and define for your retail brand the way this has to be executed, again in the customer's interest, these can result in tremendous improvements for your brand. Now, you asked it earlier, and I have to say, Harry, there is a disconnect between the aspirations of every retail brand and the reality that's often felt by the consumers. And this is being amplified and made more challenging by the larger economic conditions that we all face today. Today's economy has fundamentally changed the buying behaviors and the mindset of consumers. I would offer to you that, it's not, we went from an era of sort of conspicuous consumption. Brand still matters, but now it's conspicuous value. People want to brag to each other about how little they paid for something great versus how much. The reality is that the average consumer does have less discretionary income today. And whatever extra money there is, more and more is going towards savings, unfortunately also towards debt, but in all cases, these areas versus new purchases. And so when they do shop, the consumer of today is expecting much higher, better service, both in terms of the service and the value they expect. Think of it this way. If you go out half as often as before, the unfortunate and difficult reality for the retailer is you naturally will expect more, not less, because these moments of purchase become more precious for the buyer. So given that given this new consumer reality, the natural response of most retailers has been to simply cut costs and, if we can, lower prices. Let's make a bigger deal. But given the already thin margins that most retail operations run under, the continuing pressure of commoditization, both of the product and the service experience, this is not only difficult, but it can also sometimes be a dangerous strategy. And on this notion of a bigger deal, what if we could make it a bigger deal for that retailer? What if through the millions of customer conversations we've had over the years, we could gather some insights and find those ways in which a retailer can wow their customer and discover that price isn't really the biggest purchasing influencer that surrounds this kind of depressed economy. We can push price down the list of importance if we attend to a few important other elements of the human experience during these tough economic times. Let's remember this. We don't just have less money as consumers, we also have less time. So with retailers in particular, convenience can often become more important than price, and consumers are often willing to pay a little bit more for that precious time savings. So that's one important element. The second is that at the same time that we've got less money to spend, we've got a little bit less time, we're also suffering more demands. And the result of that, the human response to that is we look for opportunities to escape. Think of a small escape that a simple purchase such as a candle or soap from a retailer can provide. We work with Bath & Body Works, and we know that the way they combine a scented candle with a new foam or bubble bath and a hand sanitizer, all wrapped around a theme, this allows the shopper, this allows her to escape for 5 to 10 minutes on a busy day and enjoy a purchase that isn't just driven by price. If you just commoditized and looked at any one of those elements, the hand lotion, the candle, the bubble bath, each one of these you could probably buy cheaper at a Walmart. But it's the combined experience and the losing yourself, even if it's just for 5 minutes, with hopefully an intelligent, knowledgeable little uptick from a local associate who's got your best interests in mind. This separates price from the equation and allows that retailer, as an example, to win. So everything from the atmosphere, the smell of the stores, to the products and the way the staff interact, even in that setting I've described where product definitely does reign supreme. People don't go in for the service, they go in for the product. But the service element, the cue that the associate provides, helps to elevate the experience. And again, there's tremendous value for the customers. But now within a certain price range, the dollar amount for that purchase is off the table. And it doesn't have to be the least expensive. And then lastly, I would say, although the mood out there is depressed, more negative or critical, let's not forget this. Whether it's the company you choose to join under a particular leadership, the party that you vote for in politics, and all of this, you have to know that one element of human nature hasn't changed. Hope continues to sell. So as much as we can surround an experience by making it more convenient, but at the same time, ironically, also giving us a chance to escape, if we can wrap that in the bow of hope, which is here's something in particular on the product side that will make your life a little bit better, that continues to be, as we're saying here, the bigger deal that we're after. So what I'm describing here is that the experience that retail brands are able to provide their customers in many cases is, can be the determining factor in winning over this more discerning consumer in today's tough times. And what we have found with the many brands, and some were listed in the invite, and we've worked with some 200 brands over the last decade, is that those that are able to provide the best experiences for their customers are the ones that are able to make, even if it's a brief fleeting moment, that emotional connection with their customers. So in today's economy, more than wanting to save just a few pennies, we find that many consumers look to the brand experiences as a way to have small escapes from the sea of bad news that's around them. So if I would, Harry, let's ask the audience another question. Again, on our 5-point scale, are you currently running programs not a 5-point scale. Pick one of the following options. Are you currently running programs to make improvements in any of the following areas? Employee engagement, the customer experience, or in advocacy management? Just pick one of the three, or 2 or 3 of them, and let us know if, again, we'll quickly look at results, if this is an area that you're focusing on. We have, of course, as you do that, many examples from leading retail brands. As we described, we've worked with everything from everyone from a Dollar Tree to a Citibank, so as trivial a purchase as something that's under $1 to multi-million-dollar mortgage. The point here is that the same ability to make an emotional connection, whether brief or over a longer period of time, is what separates the discerning consumer from making a purchase with one company versus another.
So, Gary, if I'm hearing you correctly, the approach here is you're basically taking what most folks had sort of siloed in customer feedback and taking it a much more broad approach to making it part of the overall integral part of the business.
That's absolutely true. What we're going to share with you briefly, Harry, is this. We'll look at the audience results here. Several folks, 61%, 2/3 almost of the audience, doing some form of employee engagement. That would be some form of survey and feedback and hopefully action planning attendant with that. The majority, almost 80%, doing some form of customer experience at 79%. Nobody's in the advocacy management space. So this is our bold new move. We're going to share that with you and how many retailers are moving into advocacy management. You're elevating far beyond a customer satisfaction transaction program, even above let's get focused on the experience moments to what we're calling advocacy management. And although there aren't any in the audience currently doing it, I do want to awaken the audience and open your eyes to some new opportunities later in this presentation to how you can elevate both the employee and the customer piece to true advocacy management. I think it's where the future lies. So let's get into some details. How do you go about improving your customer experiences to be able to deliver that positive, emotional brand promise? Well, as you would gather from the questions we've asked, that we just had you polled on, we believe that there really are three pillars in being able to deliver on your brand promise. That is the ability to build a positive internal company culture, fine-tune the customer experience itself to identify and grow a base of loyal fans, not just a customer satisfaction or a net promoter score, but an actual base of loyal fans. And finally, the right programs in place to take advantage of both employee and coverage, leverage the love that you can build by encouraging and fostering positive word of mouth. These programs, as we've described, are around employee engagement, customer experience, and advocacy. And so I'd like to take a step back and talk about some of the real-world successes we've seen here and being privileged to be a part of at Empathica. Let's begin with a customer who's been able to a client of ours who's been able to successfully leverage an engaged workforce to build their differentiated brand. Work with a large greeting card store, and let's think about the experience of going into a greeting card store. It's a product that is, in many ways, could be subjected to a great deal of commoditization. Again, you can go into any store at the local corner or into a major discounter and pick up a greeting card. So when you can buy a greeting card from anywhere, from a corner store to a pharmacy to a grocery or a large distribution center, why would you go into a specialty store that just focuses in on it? You would do so because that store offers a unique and distinct experience that you can't have anywhere else. You can drive them to your stores through an emotional experience. Greeting cards are a product kind of interesting to look at because they are inherently emotional. They're a product used to celebrate or mourn, if you will, exceptionally emotional events. They cover the entire gamut of emotion. You purchase a card if sadly someone passes away that's important in your life, and you purchase a car with the birth of a new child. Everything in between, birthdays, anniversaries, all of these carry graduations. All of these carry substantial emotional weight. And so when you think of the role of the associate, although you go in to buy a card, the associate carries a particularly important role as a cue. It's not why you go into the store, a cue or a support to that product. And we need to have, as we've evidenced, success in stores like this by having a great deal of empathy among the store associates who are able to immediately tune into what this range of emotion that's possible from all the varied customers who walk through the door. It's not just about telling you where to find something. The role isn't purely functional, and this is where I think one important point we want to draw out here. Functionally, people who run large retail operations want to describe an exact behavior. And functionally, the behavior might be to help you find the right card and the right gift that would attend that card or wrapping. But the true valued moment from the consumer perspective is, of course, finding that intelligent upsell, that suggestion that goes with the card or a complimentary product or wrapping to help you build a future memory in that moment of how to create a perfect moment for that experience. So in a store like this, the role of the associate becomes very much non-functional and directed towards finding very brief, it might only last 5 to 15 seconds, moments of emotional connection with that customer, with a very much an attitude of what's in that customer's interest that might also help them create a perfect moment in the future. And this has to become the mission of each and every associate, that thoughtful suggestion that will enrich the shopping experience. So rather than being nervous about should we try and upsell something because this is either a difficult or a very personal moment, really the reality is customers want a reach out to help them create that perfect future memory. And when that happens, as we're evidencing here, the benefits are clear. Customers are more satisfied and they purchase more. So, when we're talking about associates, I'm talking about the role of the associates. The person who carries out that mission has to be one who loves that place. We're showing sort of Maslow's hierarchy here, that so much of what we focus on in retail is sort of at the bottom of this hierarchy, the basics, the functional elements. But if you feel that this is a place where you belong, where you can make connections to your customers and you feel good about it, you feel that you play an important role and that you really love this place, this is what we want for the associates on the floor. And when the employee feels that and carries that attitude, that mission in their heart, of course, that's what allows them to connect with customers and help those customers find what I described earlier, those brief moments where they can escape and have a pleasurable experience. Now, the fact is, I've described one, but every retailer is different. And we've done countless, over 50 different engagement models. We're showing here the complex path analytic diagrams that we build. Each one is different. We are very much believers there is no cookie cutter. There is no one right approach. But when we've modeled in many, many different ways, there are a few insights that we would offer across over all of the retailers, multi-unit brands that they've worked with. There's a few core elements to the experience of an associate that are critical. And what we've found are these. You have to have a sense of growth. Now remember, the majority of the population out there, the most of us in the workforce, will have started at some point working in a retail or food service setting. Most of us have experienced ourselves as workers somewhere, oftentimes early in our job experience, working for one of these retailers or indeed for a restaurant. Let's stay grounded in terms of what we think of when you're going on shift. So you're a young person and you're going out to work in this retail store. What's on your mind? To be grounded, what's on your mind is, what are my shifts this week? And obviously that's for the convenience of it, but also it gives you a sense of your social standing in the store. It also helps you to understand, and what you're thinking about is, well, who gave me that schedule and who am I on shift for? Who am I working with today? Who's going to be my manager? And third, you're going to have on your mind what are customers going to be like today? Is it going to be a busy day? Is it going to be a fun day? Or is it going to be boring? To be very grounded, that's what's on the mind of the individual when they're walking out the door to work in your retail store. What we have to know is, from an engagement perspective, the three elements that we need to culturally build and then make sure we measure, monitor, and constantly improve is consistently we see the importance of growth. And not necessarily that you're going to grow up within this brand, i.e. work here and one day become a manager or work for head office, but the idea is that you would have to see this job as an important one in your overall career journey. And so you have to believe that this is an opportunity for you to learn and to grow. Second, the relationship with your manager, as I've described, is an absolutely critical one. For all the initiatives that come from head office, that manager will be the filter that says this is a great thing, or with the roll of the eyes or a smile, it's going to say, is this just another, head office fad? And third, you have to have a great sense of pride and belief in, if you will, the brand that you're working with. Now, we've got a question from the audience, so I want to respect some of our audience members. And the question is this: how do you convince senior leaders in the organization of the important link between employee happiness and customer service? We talk a lot about the customer and what they want, but the employee is never taken into consideration. I think, the brief answer to this, and obviously it could be a complete webinar in itself, but the short answer to this is, look, if we're grounded in terms of who's delivering the service that we want, it's not the executive who's going to be on the floor delivering that experience. What is it we want our people to do? Great leadership always involves a clear understanding and sentiment that's grounded in the reality of the day-to-day troops who have to carry out that mission. So I think part of it is just a reminder of what executives know but forget, that as they've organized functionally around merchandising, logistics, all the distribution, the pricing, the marketing, and sometimes it can be forgotten that the person who's carrying that message for the brand is the associate themselves. We've got lots of data. Executives are usually data hungry to prove out, look, unless you attend to this, you can give marching orders at the end of the day, but you need someone to follow them. The marching orders have to make sense for the associates, and you have to march them to a place that they feel is a place they can have victory. So the small victories that we help, and we'll show examples of this, for example, with Boots, the largest retailer, one retailer of the year in Europe, we're very proud to work with them. They've completely built a culture around how to wow the customer. And so part of the daily start of a shift is, and it only takes 15 to 20 seconds. Sometimes we catastrophize that this takes an enormous amount of effort. If you spend 15 or 20 minutes at the or 15 to 20 seconds rather, the beginning of a shift, calling out, here's what a customer said yesterday about a wow comment that they gave us feedback on, and you put that associate's name on the wall, this makes a tremendous cultural difference and gets those troops galvanized around creating a great customer experience for that shift in that store that day. So I think we have to remind them of, again, we've got at our disposal all this great science that can prove out it matters. We've got all this great technology to help us actually execute on it. But let's remind ourselves where we started, which is to be a great merchandiser, to be a great retailers. We have to do something very, very old-fashioned and simple. We have to stay connected to our customers through our associates at the front line. Well, I'll move along then. Let's shift our focus to the next pillar on delivering your brand promise. How to fine-tune the in-store experience itself. Now, an example of this that most people can relate to is a pharmacy. I mentioned Boots. We work with actually several pharmacy chains around the world. And what we found is the type of experience that pharmacies now deliver are an interesting example of how a fine-tuned product selection can help deliver a better customer experience. And I bring up pharmacies because I've always found them a fascinating study of how emotions are not, and how we deliver products are not always logical or linear. Think of yourself as an MBA business student, and if you were to go to your professor at your college and say, look, I've got this idea. Let's create a store, a retail operation that offers a selection of the goods that include simple groceries, medications, cosmetics, and I've got an idea. Let's throw in a photo lab. I'm pretty sure you'd get a puzzled look back. Your professor would tell you, let's just focus in business on one market and getting one simple thing done. Pharmacies are in no way a logical or linear set of functionally driven experiences. But on the other hand, while they defy sort of logic if you step outside and realize, wow, that is sort of a quirky combination, a disconnected set of products and departments, they make sense for the harried woman of today who's burdened with delivering on a number of fronts, both at the workplace and at home. The fact is these stores, the ones we work with, have done an exceptionally good job of really getting in touch with the needs of their customers and creating a finely tuned experience for them for a unique product set. Again, the majority of pharmacy customers are women. I have to say this, and this from my old sociology background, despite increased equality in all facets of life, in particular a lot of movement on the work front, the fact is women, I'm very sympathetic, continue to be tasked with more duties than men. The studies have shown that they continue to bear primary responsibility for child care, for organizing homework, school events, housekeeping, etc. From taking care of the house or the home to balancing parenting and professional life, modern women of today is the most harried of consumer demographics. And when you think of it from a woman's perspective, the breadth of products offered at a local pharmacy can be a godsend. So in one store where you go to do something for your children, you pick up medication, you also have this moment where you can escape, where you can buy something for yourself. We've actually evidenced, and some of the audience may know this or not, but lipstick sales during the recession have gone up 30 to 40%. So pharmacies are doing very well selling lipstick, obviously to women who are going to help care for their families. And by the way, when they're there, it would really be convenient if they could pick up some milk and bread and cover what they've got to prepare for tomorrow. So it doesn't seem logical or linear or functional. Actually has a great emotional appeal and is well organized to meet the demands of that consumer. Now, I point that out that what's important to us in understanding, well, how do you build the right experience around even product as we've described, the key is in getting inside the mind of your customers and really going beyond the surface level data. I believe our industry has done a poor job in general of being able to get underneath the obvious. So we all know that friendly is important, but tell me more about how friendly should be executed here. What is it? We all know that a somewhat knowledgeable rep in a directed self-service environment is helpful, but help me to know what that knowledge really means. And so what we like to talk about here is the drivers of the drivers. Where others' curiosity ends, ours begins. And effective customer experience programs allow a brand to create and consistently deliver this, what we believe is an optimized or best customer experience. Here's here's a quick analogy I'd like to use. Let's again focus on, I like to talk about product because I think everyone who comes to these webinars thinks we're going to talk about service. Think about a children's clothing retailer, and we work with several. Now, if you were to poll a group of parents, and let's again turn to moms here and ask them, what's the most important factor in driving your decision to go to a children's apparel store? Where do you buy clothes for your kids? A simple question. And they're going to tell us, and then we'll ask, well, what's the most important thing in why you do that? Pretty much in all research, you're going to see rise to the top. The key driver is quality. Now, the fascinating thing about quality is if you want to get in trouble with that mom, ask her what she knows about quality. Ask her if she knows the thread count. Ask her if she knows the manufacturing and storage and shipping process. Ask if she even knows, and I know many advertise it, the actual return policy and if she's experienced it. Now, she may have done the third, but she's not going to know anything about the first two. Challenge her that if she hasn't chosen Walmart or a discount store where you can get it for least price, challenge mom in that moment and say, well, since you don't know thread count, you don't really know manufacturing process, you're really not much of an expert on clothing at all. Why don't you just go and buy it cheaper somewhere else? Well, you're going to get in a very difficult conversation. Mom's not going to like that. Why isn't mom going to like that? Because she's made a decision that quality is most important for her children, and that should be respected. And then what you need to respect in the retailer is not that they've necessarily proven out and made mom knowledgeable. They have made mom a very opinionated consumer that believes quality is important, so they've organized their store, their retail environment, to reinforce those quality cues. So it's the cues in the environment that become most critical and most discerning for the customer, and this is something in the experience management space that we help counsel all of our clients on, which is this is where we can really help you make a difference. We're not going to change the ingredients of what you offer. We can change the cues in the environment, whether they're the behavioral cues of your staff or the way that you've organized your store in such a way that you reinforce, in this case for mom, that her belief in great quality and what her kids deserve can be reinforced in every experience, in-store experience she has. So that's absolutely critical to the experience management and how you can, again, make some difficult decisions in this difficult economic time, where you focus your store associates, where you focus your marketing and your store operations on helping to build up these cues that reinforce what's most important to your customers. And you can see in that, in nowhere are we describing throwing more labor at the problem. It's more organizing that labor and providing them the right cues so that they can reinforce what is most important to your customer. With that, of course, and we're not here to pitch our particular product, but I want to offer this, what we need to do then is prescribe. And in prescribing for stores, I think too much of our industry, and this is where we're having a great deal of success, are focused on sort of, if you will, who's got the prettiest dashboard. And I'd like to offer to this group that if you've got a scorecard or a dashboard that you're putting out, think of it differently. One of the things you can demand and should expect more from the company that's helping you is, look, if the problem is we're not really clear on how we can differentiate those small moments that allow our customers to escape, the way that we create more convenience for them, the way that we get them focused off price, and we've got associates who really can engage in this mission with us, then isn't it that we don't need a better, prettier scorecard? What we need are some coaching and communication tools. So using the data from customer feedback, using the input of customers to reconnect with what their aspirations are, how you're selling, if you will, hope in this environment, what we focused on here in Empathica, where we're helping retailers, is coaching and communication tools so that they can do a better job on the shop floor each and every day. Now, if you do all that, if you've got a culture that's focused on great things for your customers, if you've got coaching and communication tools to get everybody rallying around a great customer experience, and you're dead clear about the moments that are so critical in what for most of our clients are directed self-service environments, then you have the opportunity to jump over the age-old debate within, as you heard at the beginning, my background in terms of research and what has plagued, again, we believe, this industry for over 20 years, the service quality kind of industry, which is every executive for as long as I can remember, and I've been around too long, has always harped on, can we make this actionable? And the great opportunity we have now in today's times with social media is to make things immediately actionable, to find that person and sidestep the debate on should you use Net Promoter or not, and get right into the moment that if we find somebody who believes that we're doing a great job, have them advocate for us in that moment. So delivering the best, let me describe that for you. Delivering the best brand experiences goes one step further in today's retail environment, thanks to newly available technologies. So let's take a look at what surprising a customer with a great experience is able to leverage, how you're able to leverage that to differentiate your brand and grow, again, even in these very challenging times. Now, we've talked a lot about emotions and the right customer experience and what that can drive. I've been at so many conferences, and the examples given are Ritz-Carlton and Neiman Marcus, two great brands. But my heartache is no one in the audience that at least I work with can relate to these. They don't have the kind of margins that a Ritz-Carlton would have. And I've only stayed at once in my life, and I loved it. But it's not the day-to-day reality of most consumers and certainly of our clients. So do you have to be a luxury brand to deliver a great experience? We would say no. Even discount retailers that we work with, and we're working with a number from Dollar Tree to TK Maxx and Asda in the UK to Winners, each of these is able to deliver an elevated experience for what it is that they're offering up to customers. And they focus not just on experience and not just on getting a better score, but on actually leveraging the advocates that they are able to find and to build. Customers have always talked about the brands that they enjoyed most. This is just a fact of human life. It's the oldest sales and marketing adage in any book that you've ever read. If you've got a good experience, why not tell a friend? And a couple of real examples. The fact is, with new technologies such as social media and mobile, it's easier now more than ever for customers to broadcast these great experiences. It's not only easier for customers to talk about experiences, but it's easier for people to listen. And the fact and reality is everybody's listening. A study done by the folks at Mashable showed that today 3/4 of Facebook users like between 2 and 10 brands. And that's a huge enough number, especially given consideration of Facebook claiming over 350 million active users. Advocacy, though, is something different. It's different than just liking something. And it's definitely not advertising. And so what we have here is the opportunity at the end of a survey. Think of the most challenged brands that are out there and the most successful. It's Gary's 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule is this. 80% of customers, even in difficult, challenged brands, are going to give a 4 and a 5. If you've got an 80% top 2-box score, it's rather a dismal one. But all brands, if they're surviving today, are achieving that. Exceptional brands are getting 80% just on top box. But in either case, that means that at least 8 out of 10 customers have had a positive experience, and you've got the opportunity to immediately leverage that. And so we work with dozens of brands now where it's, again, sidestepping this net promoter debate and the abstraction that's plagued market research with, okay, so somebody said they intend to recommend, but do they actually follow through? We have the opportunity with social media to, every time we find, whether that's 8 out of 10 folks who gave you a top 2 box, or for exceptional brands, and we work with many, including Starbucks now, who get 80% or better on top box because they deliver great experiences. In every one of these cases, there's an immediate opportunity that we want to offer up, which is for that customer to advocate actively for that brand. So I would offer a challenge to this audience, which is, I know you've got 79% of you are doing some form of customer satisfaction program. Every one of you has, who's running one or close to it, has heard debates and discussion around what's our current score and what would be a great score. We'd like to change the game. We'd like to suggest to you that rather than just getting another 5 points on a customer satisfaction scale, that what you really should be advocating for is, can we find 100 local brand advocates for every store? Or turn that into 200 local advocates. And every one of them authentically, through their own newsfeed, not by something you purchased, not by something that cost them or you anything really additional, can we build up that case? Can we build up that advocate base for you and with you, knowing that, as we're showing here, there's 13.5 times greater click-through rate if you put something on your Facebook page in the natural live stream versus paid advertising, and again, almost 9 times higher click-through rate than Google or Yahoo advertising. The fact is, again, I'm describing something about good old-fashioned retail here is We listen to we've got an unprecedented amount of information at our fingertips with the Internet and with the product and service choices that we make with retailers. But the fact is, with all of this information, actually we've got a new challenge, which is not too little information, but too much. And whether you've got too little or too much, where do people turn to for advice on what they should buy? They turn to people that they trust, their friends and family members, sometimes their colleagues. So again, Facebook has opened up a new venue for us, which is two things, again to repeat. One, we don't just have to talk about recommendation. We can see it live and make it happen right in the spot. And second, we've got a great avenue for friends to tell each other about what they've purchased, what they love about it, whether it's the service or the product itself, or maybe something about the brand, and to use that as a natural springboard, the advice that we all need for making the choices that we all make day to day in the consumer retail space that all of us live. Now, we've had a few questions here from the audience. Wow, we've got a lot of questions, actually. I'm just going to pick one. A lot of retailers are facing the problem that shoppers enter their store to try, for example, Best Buy, and go online to buy. For example, Amazon. In this case, I guess they go in the store and then they go online to buy it. They also seem to use mobile devices effectively to look up a cheaper price with competitors while in the store. How do you think an engaging in-store customer experience can contribute towards changing this sort of behavior? Well, I think it can change in several ways. The one I would offer is that, again, if we look at the notion of what I described earlier, convenience and escape, we like to lose ourselves in the moment. And whether it's going on Amazon or just walking down the street to a different retailer, if you're lost in that moment, I would offer to you the very first example I gave is a good one, which is if you found that perfect scented hand lotion that went with a candle and it was within that $15 to $25 purchase range that you were thinking when you stopped by in a busy day and had a moment between grabbing trains, for most it's not going to occur to then find that candle somewhere else, source it, and spend the time, the inconvenient time, tracking it down. So I believe where retailers have focused on what have been called moments of truth, we should refine that notion to find moments of escape. If you can clearly articulate as a retailer, what's the moment in which our customers lose themselves in the experience? Where is it that they suspend disbelief, don't look for other alternatives, find themselves in that moment purchasing something because they deserve it and they want it? If you can define not this sort of generic moment of truth, but this moment of escape, you have the opportunity to convert that customer, if you will, both to an advocate and to make them, most importantly, price insensitive and willing to purchase from you because they want it in that moment and they want to walk away from it. Just one example. I'm sure there are many, but hopefully that helped answer your question. Another question. What's new about all this? Haven't programs like Mystery Shop been around forever? They certainly have. Mystery Shop certainly has its place in the world of retail. Our belief is it has its place in the world of compliance. So if you don't want your convenience store to sell cigarettes to young people, you better put that traffic cop in and get a radar with a Mystery Shop program to make sure that if you catch anybody, you're willing to shut that store down or fire that associate. That Mystery Shop is particularly effective in that. What it can't do, though, is twofold. One, it can't reach out to thousands of customers and look across many interactions. So for the same cost of that Mystery Shop, can you get dozens or hundreds of customers to give you feedback? Well, we think listening to customers gives you a better vantage point because of the so many more points of data that you'll achieve on it. And second, it doesn't help you figure out those moments of escape. A Mystery Shopper, somebody paid to come in with their clipboard, virtual or otherwise, to talk through did the following 5 steps occur, doesn't give us any insight into the hearts and minds of the consumers who shop there. And again, that's where we believe the only source of truth that you really need to pursue in these instances are customers themselves. And happily, technology, marketing science, and capabilities of through social media allow us now to do that very, very cost effectively. Well, we're coming down to the hour. I wanted to just finish off with a few key points. So again, we believe that there really are three pillars in being able to deliver on your brand promise: a positive internal company culture, a fine-tuned customer experience, and being able to grow a base of loyal fans. With those three things in place, we believe we're well on our mission to a place where everyone can love where they've worked, shopped, and dined. Now let's take the last few minutes we have for some questions that have come through during the session.
Great, Gary. Let's go ahead and jump on into the queue here. You got a few of them already. I got another one here. What if I'm already successful in achieving a lot of what you're talking about? Do I still need the help of new technology?
Yes, you do. For one thing, Harry, the times, they are changing. So what we found is that, and there's movies out there about this now. Nobody's, too big to fail. So where you have success today doesn't guarantee you success tomorrow. And what we believe with new technologies you're able to do is leverage and make sure that, look, even if you're in a solid place today, make sure you've prepared for tomorrow, because the game tomorrow is going to be a different one. And only by staying, not to be on the bleeding edge, but only by staying on the cutting edge of mobile, of social media, and keeping a clear line of sight into what your customers want with technology, with some up-to-date marketing science, can you be assured, as much as anybody can be, that you're going to stay relevant and successful in the future. So standing on the laurels of today for most retailers isn't what's going to guarantee success tomorrow.
Going to a point you made pretty early in the presentation, someone wants to know, get a definition for advocacy management.
So what we mean by advocacy management is what I've described at the end, which is let's get off the obsession of what's our customer satisfaction scores. And certainly, we're always have a little moment of pride, but then I always get a little bit concerned for our clients when they start socializing and talking about, what's your Empathica score. Scores are important, and it's important to measure if you want to manage anything. But the scores themselves, unfortunately for some retailers, become the focus rather than what the scores represent. And so for advocacy management, what we're trying to do here is elevate into a new space that we're kind of branding social CEM, which is the intersection of the retail experience with social media and the opportunity to create a dialogue that extends beyond the bricks and mortar, to elevate, if you will, the experience to the point where the shout-out can be immediate, it can be to friends and families each and every time something positive happens within that retail store. And as we described, build out a loyal base of fans for each and every store. And with that, we believe, again, we're doing something very old-fashioned. 100 years ago, that local store would have had its local base of fans, if you will, and people who interacted and knew the proprietor and gave direction in terms of what products and services, what their expectations are. Large distributed enterprises that we work with today need a way to get back to those times. And I guess there's a little irony in it, but new technology is what's allowing them to do so.
Okay. What is the best way to measure our customer service, mystery shoppers or real customers?
Well, it's a great question. It sounds like it was seeded, but it wasn't. We've got a great brand who's asking that question. And the fact is, Mystery Shop can help you, but it'll help you solely on compliance type of issues. So if you've got a 10-step process for getting something done, customers may not be particularly insightful, whether an associate skipped number 7. And if that's important to you, a brief, limited Mystery Shop may help you get a handle on, again, functional compliance to certain steps in a process. But what it can't help you with is knowing each and every day is somebody excited and engaged, helping you on your brand mission. Are the associates on the floor truly doing something remarkable? The fact is, if you go into, say, a grocery store today and you ask for help finding something, and that person who engages with you smiles at you, makes eye contact, says, here, come with me, I'll show you, and walks you to it, that can seem like an exceptional experience. Sadly, if you think about it, step outside of that moment and you realize, wow, that should be a basic. But for many, that's become a differentiating moment. To answer the original question, you can't capture that. You can't capture that magic moment that is now exceptional. It really shouldn't be, but it is. You can't capture that through a mystery shop program. You can only capture it by giving voice to your customers and allowing them the opportunity to shout out, not only when things are wrong or sideways or haven't delivered on what's been expected, but allow them to shout out when things go really right. Use that as a cultural reinforcer for your associates to stay engaged in what matters each and every day.
Okay, we're getting close to the end here, but we started a couple minutes late, so let's get one more quick question in. What one tip or suggestion we give to a small business owner who has limited employees, limited time, and limited resources to achieve more during these crazy times?
To the small business owner, I think you have the opportunity that the large retailers don't have, which is, yes, it's crazy times, but you need to be out on the shop floor. You need to be listening to customers yourself. You may not need a program like this because you've got the advantage that the larger brands don't have, which is you can stay close to your customers. By contrast, if you're an executive running a successful multi-unit brand, you may put on your schedule and try and get out and meet with customers and be on the shop floor, but you know that's not your day-to-day life. And so for them, the challenge is how do they recreate what that small business owner can do, which is have everyone who's managing those stores and working the floors feel like they have and believe that they have a sense of ownership and a common mission that they're trying to achieve for their customers. For that small business owner, again, the advice is stay on the shop floor, stay close to what your customers want, and that's really is your advantage over those who are running multi-unit enterprises.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I'd like to thank Gary for sharing his insight with us today, Empathica for sponsoring our event, and all the attendees for your attention and participation. Remember, the archive of this presentation will be available for viewing for the next 12 months, so you can watch it again or refer it to a colleague. If you'd like to download a PDF version of this presentation, you may do so by clicking on the Print Documents and View Links drop-down button on the lower left side of your screen. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you very much.